Any empire requires a bloodline. Rome had gold. Britain had colonies. The modern world, it runs on oil. This is the reality that the world does not want to see. This lifeblood has been under the control of a single country almost 100 years. That country is Saudi Arabia. It was born and bred in the desert, which is full of oil, and it is guarded by the West. Saudi Arabia turned out to be more than a country when oil was discovered beneath its sand. It emerged as a great nation capable of transforming the economies, influencing wars, and earning the following of the great governments. The price of this power, however, is, at the back of each deal, each handshake, and each smiling picture, there are money tricks and moral issues. This is a story that is uncommon to the world. It is the backdoor secret of the oil-based partnership of Saudi Arabia and the West. That collaboration was enhanced by arms and tainted with corruption. Everything started in the 1930s. Arabia was tribes and sand and had a new king known as Abdulaziz ibn Saud. His kingdom was big, impoverished, and distant to other countries. Nobody believed that it possessed a secret treasure that would transform history. Then followed a group of American geologists of Standard Oil of California. They eventually discovered oil in 1938 in the location known as the Hran. That discovery not only made money, but it made an empire. The Americans sunk wells, erected refineries and pipelines. The Saudis were able to view oil trickle like black rivers, making villages into bustling cities. They combined to form the Arabian-American Oil Company, known as ARAMCO. There is a collaboration between ARAMCO, the industry of the West, the new fortune of Arabia. What began with business evolved into a more intense political connection that influenced the 20th century. In 1945, President Franklin D. Roosevelt visited King Abdulaziz on the USS Quincy. They settled on a historic agreement. Saudi Arabia would be under the protection of America. America would receive oil at the hands of Saudi Arabia. The transaction was direct, confidential, and hard. The U.S. got a steady oil supply. Military security was provided to the Saudis. The politics of the world are defined by that handshake. Saudi Arabia was not able to be challenged since then. Washington discussed democracy and human rights with regard to other countries, but remained silent when it came to Saudi Arabia monarchy. The West turned a blind eye to Saudi Arabia provided there was oil flowing. This silence eventually became policy. Saudi Arabia became extremely wealthy in the 1970s as a result of oil. Yet money was not sufficient, power was more important. The US dollar no longer was pegged to gold in 1971. America had to find another means of ensuring that its currency remained competitive in the rest of the world. It again made a turn towards Saudi Arabia. It was a mere arrangement that any Saudi oil, or hence any oil, is sold in US dollars. This became the petrodollar. Every country was forced to purchase oil using dollars. This put world finance under the enormous control of America. Saudi Arabia, in its turn, sent billions of oil earnings to US banks, weapons, and infrastructure. This was a just exchange, power in exchange, and silence in exchange. The world became a petrodollar dependency. The US is able to print money and purchase oil. Saudi Arabia would purchase power and arms. They united to make a strong system that was not challenged. Corruption increased behind the alliance. Billions of oil funds were moved to the shaky gray paths, commissions, donations, and offshore bank accounts. The Al Yamama weapons sales depicted that the business was dirty in the 1980s. The sale of jets and weapons to Saudi Arabia by Britain was an exchange of oil. Investigators discovered massive bribes to Saudi princes and Western officials later. When the authorities attempted to present the reality, the case was closed down, citing the reason national security. The honesty was in fact too costly to disclose. This repeated itself and repeated itself. However, corruption by the Western countries despised it, unless it was Saudi oil. Ethics were neglected in case of oil pipelines' functionality. The West remained silent when Saudi Arabia employed weapons in a bad manner. The war in Yemen shows this. In 2015, a regional fight started. It turned out to be a great humanitarian crisis. Cities were bombarded, children were starving, hospitals were burned, most of the time using weapons of the West. Nevertheless, the very nations which sold such weapons to Saudi Arabia referred to this country as a strategic ally. The real side of Saudi Arabia was revealed in 2018 to the world. Jamal Khashoggi, a rebel journalist who has written against the crown prince, had attended the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He never appeared again. He was killed and cut up there. Everyone was outraged. There were statements by the Western governments. Other CEOs break the knots in the meantime. However, in several months, the trade negotiating activities were revived, shipments of weapons were made, and tempers had cooled. The point was made plainly that oil is more than blood. Simultaneously, Saudi Arabia retained business with the West. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, propelled his grand strategy, Vision 2030. He had a lot of promises. Women were allowed to drive, concerts and tourism were accepted, and new cities such as Neom were announced. He was acclaimed as a reformer. However, the government squashed opposition with technology and fear behind the sunny image. Activists were jailed. Critics disappeared. Controlling was through surveillance. The West seeking an investment did so. The strategy of King MBS was not just a business, but a business plan. He intended that the future of Saudi Arabia would not be viewed the same way that it is being viewed today. To ensure that despite the move the world takes to renewable energy, the kingdom will remain significant. There was spending of billions on sports, entertainment, and technology. Saudi money began to transform Western culture as well, purchasing football club shares and sponsoring major technological events. It was not just about dealings in oil, but about exerting influence on the global front. This contemporary image is surrounded by a huge web of influence. The amount of money that Saudi Arabia allocates to lobby politicians and the think tanks in the West is in the millions annually. It has a simple aim: to defend the kingdom reputation, dictate the narrative, and prevent any government that contradicts its interests. In Washington, Saudi money is received by both the Democrats and Republicans. In London, Saudi funds are invested in luxury houses and military firms. The kingdom has also discovered that oil is not the only source of power, but the appearance. Oil-based empires do not last forever. The world changes quickly. Green energy is becoming more renewable, electric vehicles are becoming more widespread, and individuals are starting to be more concerned about the climate. The West relies less on oil. New actors such as China and Russia are uniting, and they are threatening the old-fashioned of doing things. China has reached agreements with Riyadh, which could lead to the avoidance of the US dollar at a certain day. This is the first time in several years. Nevertheless, Saudi relationships are among the most influential in the world politics. The fact is that Saudi Arabia did not only sell oil, it sold control, it bought silence. Even a historical creator can change history. The oil that had made Saudi Arabia strong is coming up as a marker of trouble. Priorities are shifting to climate change, disasters, and the transition of the world to clean energy. The age of oil is fading. When that occurs, the issue will be who rules what comes after, and not who rules the oil. The world continues to be influenced by Saudi relations today. They drive our automobiles, our economies, and they drive quietly at national policy. They are the obscure connection, which connects power to money and money to silence. Most people will not accept it, yet the truth is, after all, it is not just a story of a country or a deal. It is a tale of human beings, of our insatiable thirst to gain power, of our willingness to forego values in favor of money, and our capacity to ignore the cost when the price is low. The question we have to pose as we look into the future is, will the world really break the shackles of oil and pull nations such as Saudi Arabia up? Or has the Saudi connection become so ingrained in the contemporary way of life that it is never to be broken? As no empire in the long run is defeated by its adversaries, but people begin to lose faith in their narrative.